Guys, Anton here from Adventure Afrika, and we're back for Recovery Point again. And today we've got Willem van Putte again. You had your whole rhympie, IOL and whatever.
IOL Independent Newspapers.
That's it, editor of the motoring side.
Yes.
And then we've got a special guest, Mic van Zyl, 20 years at Ironman 4x4 Africa. Mick, good seeing you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you too.
Lucky having you on the show today. And we're going to jump right into it because
I started years and years and years ago. I had a Nissan Sani with a very, very basic dual battery system. And for my purpose,
with the solenoid and everything.
Yeah. And to be honest, it was simple and it worked.
Mick, but you with your 20 years experience at Ironman 4x4, I mean, you guys saw a lot of things coming in and out of the shop. What was your go-to for advice for clients?
So, as somebody who's done a fair amount of overlanding as well, the one thing that's always struck me when I was traveling with, especially when I was traveling with a tour operator who would be a brand ambassador, and we would tag along with them, and they would have a gaggle of paying customers with them, normally 10 to 12 vehicles. And every single trip that I've been on, out of those 10 to 12 vehicles, there would be at least 4 vehicles, which by day 3 would start having issues with their fridge. And you know, I found it surprising, and I saw their frustration, you know, when they're walking around with their frozen meat trying to look for fridge space with somebody else. And I would think to myself, well, these people saved a lot of money and put time aside to come on this epic overlanding trip. It's not something you do every day. And for it to be spoiled by having electrical issues very early on in the trip was just, it made my head burst. And when I looked in the vehicles, I'm there from the four-wheel drive company, and I get asked invariably, can you have a quick look and see if there isn't a quick fix?
Yeah, because all of a sudden, now you're an auto electrician as well.
Exactly right. So fortunately, I very early on in my career realized the importance of a good electrical system in the vehicle, depending on what you wanted. So for me, personally, refrigeration is key. Okay, fresh food, cold food, ice.
And a cold beer.
Cold beer, gin and tonic.
Frozen meat.
Frozen meat. And you don't want to have to mess around with ice and cooler boxes and stuff. So you need to have a fridge that's working and working throughout the trip. Because when you go on that trip, you don't want to be messing around with your equipment and fixing things. You want to be enjoying the area you're going into. And when you're hungry or you want to have a drink, it needs to be right. So it's critical that it's critical for the enjoyment of your trip to have your electrical system sorted. And the problem with electrical systems, different customers have different needs. So some customers might just want a fridge. Other people want lighting. And then there's guys like myself who want charge points because we have drones and we have GoPros and the rest of it, cameras. We need charging points. We're in areas where there's no shore power. You're not camping at a campsite with power, so you need to charge batteries. If you're standing for a couple of days, you need to employ solar panels. All of that needs to work. And not only work, it needs to work throughout the entire trip and not have any issues. So some of the things that I saw, the overriding thing that I saw was that whoever's putting these systems together and installing them just don't know what they're doing. They have no clue. And it's not like, a suspension, which is my favorite product. It's the thing that I've been working with the longest. From most companies, you can buy a single part number, which will have everything that you need to do a suspension upgrade for a particular vehicle, for a particular application. But one part number with everything in it, fitting instructions, fit it, go, it works. But with an electrical system, you're using a lot of different components, and you're using wiring, and you're using fusing. And if it's not done properly, that's when it leads to disaster. So yes, it's a very important thing, I feel, if you're a serious overlander and if you're going to areas where there isn't shore power and you need to be self-sufficient. And I guess one of the challenges, or the biggest challenge, is finding a four-wheel drive company that'll do the installation correctly and with quality, that you don't have issues.
And also, I think that understand your system.
Absolutely. That's the other thing, is the people are there and they say, my fridge doesn't work. Have you checked the fuses? Don't even know where the fuses are.
Yeah.
Is it earthed properly? Don't know.
All of the above.
you see, in the last couple of years, we've been seeing a lot of these portable power stations. And I tend to start thinking, you know what, that is a better option for me than having to install a dual battery system with this box and this box. And I mean, I can remember your vehicle, you literally had a whole panel full of just I don't know, sensors and
So in my,
everything.
I totally agree with you. In my Hilux, I have a removable box. It doesn't quite have all the charge points and everything on the box, but it is removable. And the reason for that is that there's space on the side of the sliders. There's space for that. In the 76 series, space is at a premium. I prefer wagons over pickups as for my personal vehicle, although pickups are way more practical. And
There's more space.
So in the 76, I sacrificed the window box on the driver's side for my inverter, my DC to DC, my solar controller, and my charge points. I kind and all my camp lighting. So my headlamp and my search lamp and my work lights, they all lived there and they were all charged there. So I sacrificed that for my electrical box, if I can call it that. But yeah, I agree with you. There's nothing wrong with, and it's something I'll probably employ in my next four-wheel drive, which will be a 76 again, is a removable box, because I'm going to have to make that vehicle a daily driver with nothing in the back. And if I want to go away, I need to bolt in a couple of things, plug them in, and be self-sufficient and go overlanding. So that's my next project. But I agree with you.
Well, if you look these days, something like the EcoFlow Delta 2, I think there's a 2,000 watt one. They started around about 24,000 rand. Then you can get their, they call it an alternator charger. Set up, so that alternator charger is around about 8,000 rand. The whole kit that you buy costs around 30,000 rand at the end. But that alternator charger charged that box at 800 watts per hour. That is, even at 12 volt, you're looking at 70 odd amps per hour that is charging it. It is crazy. It is probably one of the fastest chargers that I've heard of, because most of the guys are running between 40, maybe to 55 amps that they can charge a dual battery system. Now this thing is sitting in the back of your car. You've already got your 2,000 watt inverter in there, pure sine inverter. You've got USB ports and everything. You've got two plugs. You've got everything. It's already got the MPPT in the back, so you can just plug in a solar panel if you need to. But the cost-wise of that setup versus building a full Victron or Red Arc or something like that, it just doesn't make sense. And when, not if, but when load shedding hits us again, I take that box out, I drop it next to my TV, and I'm happy.
My opinion of those EcoFlow type of products is that they're great for occasional use, but heavy, constant charge and discharge, they're not going to be as good as a proper lithium battery with a proper charger.
Well, the one that I've got is a lithium iron phosphate, so it's lifeboat. It works amazingly, and that one has been sitting next to my. I haven't plugged it out. The only time I plug it out is when I move it from my TV to my vehicle when we go camping. And I've literally parked that thing next to a caravan, had a 400 watt solar panel on it, and it was running the caravan perfectly.
Look, like I said, that's possible if you do it occasionally.
But you don't agree with it?
I've seen those products fail when they've been subject to constant hard usage. And remember, lithium batteries are fantastic for many reasons. And one of the reasons is you can charge them quicker than you can charge a conventional lead acid type battery, especially flooded cell batteries. However, the life of the battery is dependent on how many cycles you put it through, and what definitely affects the life of the battery is the rate at which you charge it. So, if a lithium battery can take a maximum charge rate of 70 amp hours, it'll last way longer if you're only charging it at 35 or 40.
Yeah, because I was going to, that's my next thing, so I'm also, because some people thought they needed the stuff out of my off-road trailer more than I needed it. So
I heard you donated a couple of things to the RDP.
Yeah, fridges and solar panels and those kinds of things. So now I'm in the process of just looking around. And I think cost-wise, and it also depends how often and you're going to use it and so on. Cost five, a good old-fashioned lead-acid deep cycle battery against a far more expensive lithium-ion battery. I'm not sure. I'm still not entirely convinced that lithium is the way to go. I know it is the future, but there's so many variations out there in the market, ranging from 4,000 rand to 14,000 rand. You know, and I think as a consumer, it's just almost too much.
But just coming back to those lithium batteries, and I might be wrong, but as far as I understand, most lithium batteries, it's not like your lead acid battery that's the whole thing is a battery. A lithium battery that you buy these days in your Jackery, your EcoFlow, your whatever, are a bunch of little D cells batteries that is in parallel or in series to a point to get to 12 volt or whatever. And
So, some of them are like that. Some
it's
of them are
nuance.
well, some of them are bigger pockets.
Well, yeah, but
it varies.
but it's not a battery like you see in,
No,
oh,
it's not
here's
like
a
a-
dual cycle battery.
Yeah, it's not a flooded. It's not like a flooded cell
Yeah,
battery
yeah.
with plates in it.
Yeah.
It's separate packets, and that's why they can reuse. So a lot of lithium batteries that are used in the recreational side of things, four-wheel driving, and also for load shedding systems at home. You can buy those big batteries that you would use in your inverter system at home that are repurposed EV batteries from
Yeah.
electronic vehicles, which is phenomenal. It's great. They're light. I know you said you're not there yet. I wasn't there for a long time.
No,
And,
I just, you know, it's one of those things. And I think for a lot of the viewers, not everybody has the 7 grand for a battery. So
True, but the
He's-
prices are dropping. You know, as
No, they
more and more
are.
people are buying them, the
They are.
prices are
But on
dropping.
the other hand, yes, you don't have 7 grand for that. But a normal deep cycle battery, you're looking at a lifespan of between 3 maximum to 5 years, most of the time, depending on how much you use it. Sometimes it can be less because that battery also only has a certain amount of cycles that
No,
it
no,
can go
and you know, the
So
discharge rate is.
you're looking at a lithium battery, and all of a sudden you're going maybe from 1,000, 1,500 cycles to 3,
know.
5, some even up to 10,000 cycles before you have to replace it. So it's an interesting debate.
The other thing you must remember is with a lead acid flooded cell battery, 100 amp hour battery. If it's in tip-top condition, you're going to get 50 or 60 amps out of it. Then it's
Yeah.
flat.
Yep.
And then when you charge it, that's one full cycle.
Yeah.
If you take a 100 amp hour lithium battery and you set your low point at 10 amps, you'll get 90 amps out of it.
Yeah.
That's one cycle, which is almost equivalent to 2 cycles of a lead acid battery.
And
Bear
if
that
you
in mind
if you
as
do
well.
shop around, because I'm now shopping around, you know, there are 100 amp hour batteries going for between 3.5 and 4.5. You know, and then the question is 100 amp hour on a dual battery system enough to power my fridge, my lights, my USB charging things?
So on the standard footprint that we all know 100 or 110
Yeah.
amp hour to be, in lithium you can get up to 150 amp hour
Yeah.
in the same footprint. And what's happening of late now is that those batteries, the latest generation of lithium batteries for automotive use, for recreational four-wheel driving, for automotive, for camper vehicles, are no longer big bricks. They're flat. You can mount them
Yeah.
out of the way.
They're lighter.
They're lighter. They have great
That's amazing.
cooling because you know lithium batteries need to be.
You've got Bluetooth built into the thing.
Battery management systems are phenomenal, very good. You know, so it's as with anything that's new, the technology as it's progressing and as more and more people buy into it, it becomes more affordable, and it becomes better because that's where the brain power is being used to develop that product.
Okay, so before we move on, you are saying you prefer the dual battery system setup just with lithium.
That's for me, my application. But if you've got somebody that only goes away twice a year, I would put a removable box. By all means, lithium. I would never go back to flooded cell or lead acid batteries. I'm lithium all the way now. Definitely put a removable box in so that, you know, especially if the vehicle's your daily driver and it's a wagon, you don't want the box in there all the time. unplug it, take it out, put it in the garage, put it on trickle charge. That's the way to
Willem,
go.
You stuck with your lead acids?
No, no, I'm not stuck on the lead acids. I'm not at all. But again, if you're not going to be doing regular camping and regular, and if you,
So you
a lead
more
acid,
about
a deep
price
cycle,
thing justifies.
I think so, because a lot of people, not all of us just pack up and go away for 3 weeks and
So not
go
all of us
overland.
are semi-retired like
Yeah.
certain people here.
So and some of us have, jobs that we need to go to. So if you're only going to be using your your system maybe 2 or 3 times a year, you have to weigh up, does the cost justify, the against how often you're going to use it? Because just normally, up until now, I've just been using lead acid batteries, and in my trailer, I've run my lights, my fridge, my charging. It's all been sufficient, and I understand that eventually it is going to just say, okay, thanks, I've had it. But again, if you're using it 2 or 3 times and you keep it on a smart charger, you should get a good few years out of that.
Well, I'm still very portable power station. I just love the convenience.
Yeah, but you run
It's
ice
stick
machines.
it in and take it out.
You
It's
run
as
ice
simple as
machines.
that.
The rest of us have Snovas. You run ice machines.
Yes, I do run my ice machine. You can't go to the bush without the ice machine. But anyway, okay, so diff locks. Mick, do we really need a front diff lock for our South African driving? We're talking overland now, not 4x4, just overlanding. Is it necessary? And even 4x4ing?
So, Anton, let me reply to that as follows. There are perhaps 3 vehicles that I know of that you can currently buy with a front diff lock. 70 series Land Cruiser. I think the Ineos
Raptor.
Grenadier.
Grenadier?
Raptor is not a 4-wheel drive toy. Let's not
But-
talk Raptor.
Hey.
Let's not talk Raptor. We're talking proper 4-wheel drives that you go overlanding. 76 Land Cruiser got a front diff lock. Ineos Grenadier, I think, I don't know.
Yes.
Depending on what model, yes.
Yeah. Geländewagen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's all I know.
Can I break your mind now?
Yes,
Yeah.
Tank 300,
Yes.
Tank
Okay.
500,
yes.
The
P500,
GWM Limited,
yeah,
P500.
Okay.
P500. There's a couple of these Chinese, and we're going to move on to Chinese from this, but there's a couple of Chinese brands that is coming out with
Wasn't aware of it.
front
So
lockers.
that leads me to ask the question, why have those vehicles got front diff locks?
I don't know.
So in my own 4-wheel driving experience, which is fair but not hectic, I spent 2 years living in Australia, and that was extreme 4-wheel driving. The 4-wheel drive tracks there are used by vehicles with 35-inch tires. So if you go there with anything less, you're going to be beaching and getting stuck and whatnot. So that was, and Australian 4-wheel driving, in my experience, is all about constantly testing yourself and your vehicle. Whereas personally, and most of the customers I've come across in 25 years of having a 4-wheel drive workshop are not, I call them weekend warriors, guys who want to test themselves and their vehicle all the time. They're overlanding folks. They have a vehicle which they spend, buy a new top-of-the-range Hilux, you're in for $1 million. Spend another 100, 200, 300 grand on it to make it proper overlanding. That's big money. You don't want to be breaking it or thrashing it all the time.
No.
So that's pretty much the mean, the majority of the customers. So in my own experience, I have never used the front diff lock on my Land Cruiser because I've had to. I've never gone anywhere. And having said that, if I've been overlanding or on a 4-wheel drive trip with my staff or with customers or with mates or whatever, if I can take the easier route and get to camp earlier, set up camp and watch the sun go down with a gin and tonic, I would rather do that than try and get over this gnarly hill over
my
here.
vehicle.
That's
I agree
me.
with you.
So I've never really put myself in a situation where I've had to use a diff lock to get over. The only time I've ever engaged the diff lock on my cruiser is to engage it and make it work a bit, because you need to do that.
Just to
Lubricate it or whatever,
a little
yes.
bit.
Can I just butt in here?
Yeah.
So the humble Land Rover that conquered continents
It doesn't have diff
had
lock.
open diffs.
Yeah, it doesn't have
Had
diff
an
locks.
open diff.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah. So
But the interesting thing is, I was a couple of years back. We did Baboon's Pass in Lesotho, and I did it in my stock standard old D4D Hilux, and there was he became a mate of mine after the trip. He was in his Isuzu, and he installed front diff locks on it, and he wasn't 3 kilometers into the pass when he broke his CV joints. Well,
if your car's not designed for it, don't play.
the thing is, it doesn't help that you put in this thing and the parts that are now depending on this thing is not made for it. It's
Yep.
just it's not
So
going to work.
my take on Baboon's Pass is I would never do it in my daily driver. I would, if I was that way inclined to go and do drives like Baboon's Pass, I would have a toy car that could brake, that I could brake, and I'd probably put a front diff lock in it just so that you
And
could go.
35s and
But I would never. That's not me.
coilovers.
So
That's the guy that was with us. He was there with his Jeep Wrangler. He had 37-inch wheels on it. He had a
There you go.
step-down gear for everything. He
Yep.
had front lockers. He had rear lockers. He had everything in that thing. And that thing went over Baboon's Pass as if it was just driving down the N1 for me and you.
absolutely.
Um,
So you must also bear in mind that most of our buckies have rear diff locks,
yeah.
and it's on the rear for a reason, and there's no front diff lock for a reason. I think it's on the rear because if you're going downhill, you need to have a very low first gear in low range for engine braking, and even better still is to have an automatic hill descent. Although in some vehicles it's a bit quick. That's what you don't need diff lock going downhill. You need diff lock going uphill, and when you're going uphill, most of the weight is on the back axle. So that's where you want your diff lock. How much is a front diff lock going to help you? Really, you got to be that 3% of difficulty
Yeah,
right
yeah.
at the top before diff lock is going to make the difference between not having one and having one.
It also affects your steering.
So, personally, nah, not for me.
No, I wouldn't put it for. I mean, unless I was like a competition vehicle or, like you say, a toy to
No,
go and do
and do Baboon's Pass
the
and
road
whatever other
pies
big
and
rocky
the
passes
baboons
there are.
and those silly things that some people do in the Western Cape and also in Lesotho.
yeah, front diff lock.
Otherwise, it's specifically for overlanding, I cannot think of one occasion where somebody said, I needed a front diff lock overlanding.
Absolutely.
It's
You
not
know,
going to help you in the sand.
no, I think the 70 series has a front diff lock. I'll tell you what my personal opinion is on that. I think Toyota and the NGOs who they supply,
Yeah.
they work very closely together. In fact, the NGOs,
Yeah.
when they put out a tender for new vehicles, it's based on 70 Land Cruisers. That's
yeah.
why nobody ever gets it. And I've spoken to other car manufacturers that have told me as much. They don't even bother anymore. It was written for 70 series. So those vehicles operate in areas where you have people that don't always know what they're doing. They're not trained overlanders and four-wheel drivers. They're a
They
doctor
barely
or a
know how to
nurse.
drive half the time.
Yeah, they work for the United Nations, the Red Cross,
Yeah.
doctor, whoever, and they've got to get into this 78 series and get to that village through rivers and over
Serious mountains. And,
over terrain which is
Yeah.
rough and tough, and you know, a diff lock would most probably then assist. Probably,
I agree
Yeah.
with you.
I think that's why it has a diff lock. But for us as overlanders,
Ah.
geez, you've got to get yourself into a real gnarly position to warrant.
Well, that's the funny thing. Now you talk about that, and I mean, you look at the 70 series, its angles and everything. It suggests that it is a proper 4x4. I mean, you've got amazing approach angles, you've got amazing departure angles, you've got a decent breakover angle. So yes,
Yeah, but
maybe
you have leaf springs at the back that hook.
yeah,
But we'll
at
get to
least-
that later. But yeah.
But I can see why you might want to have front diff locks on that thing. But Willem, the Tank 500 doesn't have the same type of approach angles, departure angles, breaker. None of them
No.
actually have it. I mean, I don't really see the purpose of why that vehicle.
No, I
has it.
think, and I don't want to be ugly here, but I think a lot of it is gimmicky.
I was just going to say, I don't think the people who design that vehicle know what
You
what the diff lock is used for. In fact,
and to be fair, I don't even know if the drivers of these fancy new know where they're ever going to use it. I mean, most times you go out on a weekend and you go for a weekend 4x4 outing, they're just good old-fashioned Fords and Toyotas and Land Rovers and Mazdas, guys chewing up the dirt. I think I saw one tank once.
Going off-road.
Yeah, well, actually doing some serious, rock climbing, and even then, at Hiluxes, Rangers, Land Rovers with open diffs are climbing things that, and that's just when you're playing over the weekend. If you're a serious overlander, you're not going to be taking your 79 or your 70 series and going up Baboon's Pass.
Okay, we talking about we brought up now the Chinese brands, but I mean, 20 years, you never saw any Chinese vehicles at a fitment center. 20 odd years as well in
10 years?
Journalism.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the
I mean,
last, probably the last.
Last 3-4 years, all of a sudden, it's just China,
Yeah, just after COVID. Every week there's a new brand and a sub-brand.
From me, I'm still very skeptic about the Chinese brands and their actual capability to go somewhere and come back. I'm 100% sure they'll get there. My worry is still, will they come back? I mean, you look at something like the JAC, or, well, not the JAC, this new, I can't even pronounce the name,
Shangan.
Yeah.
Reef. I mean, it's an impressive sounding vehicle, but
Yes, you did a study, didn't you?
I did, and I've also worked on these vehicles, and I've had many customers come in, and I've had many people ask me, one of the questions I got asked most often, apart from tires, is should I buy a 3-year-old Hilux with 60, 70,000 Ks on the clock? I want to build an overlanding vehicle. Or should I buy a brand new P-Series GW? What should I do? And I had to think about that and give my answer would be my opinion, but I'd have to base it on some type of research. So let me give you the following scenario. In the very early 60s, the Japanese started moving their vehicles out of Japan. So, Toyota, if you think of Japanese car brands, you think Toyota, it's their biggest and their best. They went to the States with a little car, and it was so terribly poor that they had to change the name from Toyota to Toyopet, okay? And the Americans coined the phrase Jap scrap.
yeah.
Fast forward 24 years, 1984. In 1984, if you bought a rear-wheel drive Corolla or a rear-wheel drive Cressida, one of the most solid vehicles ever made. If you go to any township area or any previous homeland area in the country, that's where you'll find those vehicles still running with minimal maintenance. So the Japanese took, let's call it 24 years. If I fast forward then to early 90s, maybe 1993, I bought a Korean car, Hyundai.
I was
J1, I think it was called, or pre-J1. It was assembled in Botswana by some dude who was involved in diamonds, apparently, and guns and stuff like that.
What was it?
I'm not going to name names, but in any case.
There was some horror stories there, I remember.
And that vehicle was terrible. Rear wheel bearings failed, power steering, aircon. The window climbed out of its frame one day when we were driving on the highway trying to close the thing. Not a great vehicle. Fast forward 14 years to about 2005. 2008. We were buying vehicles for our reps and just 1600 sedan vehicles. We looked at Corolla, stunning vehicle, probably the best one to buy, but very expensive. And the warranty was okay, and the service plan was non-existent. Then we looked at Nissan, Almera, I think it was called at that stage. What a shockingly poor, mundane vehicle. And Nissan haven't recovered from that at all, sadly. Then we looked at Ford, the Ford Focus sedan. Well, I'd rather give my Oaks bicycles, to be honest. And then we looked at, and then somebody said, let's go look at the Hyundai, the new Elantra has just come out. So we went and had a look at that vehicle, and we drove it, and I looked at this vehicle and opened and shut everything, and we took about an hour long looking at it. I thought to myself, this is a Korean Corolla. It's as good as the Corolla. It's got a way better warranty, way better service plan. and it's nowhere near as much. And we put our toe in the water and we bought 6 or 7 of those vehicles, and they just performed exceptionally well. So 14 years for the Koreans, okay? 7 years ago, one of my sales ladies bought a Haval, I want to say H5, when they first came here.
Oh, SUV things.
Yeah.
Oh.
What a horrible vehicle. Broke down all the time. It was constantly at Haval. They couldn't sort out the problems. It was just rubbish. Last year, 6 years later, my financial director buys the current H6 from a Volvo. Okay, he's an accountant. You know, what does he know
No,
about cars?
he's a bean counter.
But he's a very sensible person, and he does the math. And I've been in that car a couple of times, and it is luxurious. It is quiet. It works very well. He hasn't had any problem with it. Is it something I would buy? No. But it's taken the Chinese 6 years to go from really terrible to really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they as good as the Chinese? As the Japanese? That's the next question. So let me answer that the following. I know somebody who owns 32 dealerships in Mpumalanga. Very wealthy person. 32 dealerships, of which 26 are legacy manufacturers. So your Isuzus, your Nissans, your
Fords.
not Toyota, Ford, BMW, he's got Suzuki, he's got all the dealerships. 26. Then he's got 6 Chinese dealerships. For the 26 legacy dealerships, he's got one person looking after serious warranties, where the customer is now upset with you and he wants to give the car back. The 6 Chinese dealerships, he's got 3 guys who are flat checked, dealing with car
Warranty
issues.
claims.
Yes. So that tells you something. It absolutely does tell you something. Are they there yet? Probably not.
No.
Will they get there?
Absolutely.
And I'll stick my head out and say the following. You try and go and buy a flat screen TV now, quality flat, that's not made in China. The same is going to happen with cars. What's happening with Volkswagen at the moment? They're in serious trouble. What's happening with the French, the PSA group? They're in serious trouble. Nissan is in serious trouble. Apart from maybe the Indians in India and the USA, apart from those 2 car manufacturing regions, I think every other region is going to dry up, as included, and you'll only have Chinese car manufacturers.
Yeah, I don't know if I completely agree with that. We still eventually probably, but there's an interesting piece I read this morning. One of the senior people at one of the Chinese brands was saying that be careful what you buy, because she was admitting that there were already too many Chinese manufacturers in China. They oversubscribed, there's too many companies, and that's why you're seeing brands launching sub-brands and more sub-brands. And the impression I'm getting is that they're throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Let's see what sticks.
And that what sticks, they'll keep, and that falls away. So you're in a problem if you've got one of the spaghetti pieces that has fallen on the ground, and they say,
in 5 years' time, they don't make parts.
5 years' time, they say, well, sorry, bud.
Absolutely.
No can do.
I agree with you, and I think we may be seeing that already here. Shangan is, if I'm not mistaken, they're the oldest of the Chinese companies.
I think so.
The oldest company.
Yeah.
GWM is pretty solid.
And
GWM is the only one that's not owned by
the government.
Chinese government.
Yeah.
They listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange.
And they've been here for almost 30 years. So the GWM products are good products, mostly, but they're good. They're good products, and they have the warranties to back it up, and the warehouses.
The problem is, however, would you take a GWM kitted out and go to the Moremi? So what happens if you get to the Moremi and you have a failure?
That
but here's the one thing now, Mick, and for me, I can pull that same line towards, because there is a GWM in Gabs, and there is a GWM in Francistown.
Yes, okay.
Okay, hold on, but there's also just a Ford dealership in Gaborone, and there's only a Ford dealership in Francistown.
Yes.
Toyota's got one. Toyota's got 5 dealerships in Botswana, I think.
Yes.
It's Gabs, Francistown, Kasane, Maun, and I believe they've got a service center in Hansi.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that is already, but at least, and Botswana is big, but That's basically covering all of Botswana.
But more than that, if you go to any game farm, they have a workshop that's got a Land Cruiser
Yeah.
and a Hilux and somebody working there that knows the vehicle. GWM,
They don't know them.
you're on a flatbed back to the border.
Yeah.
That's
at
the problem.
At a cost of about 50K.
Yeah, and I mean, even things like the Jack and a couple of other ones, LDV. You even here locally, you're driving in the Northern Cape, and you're doing the Richtersveld route, and you brake, and you pick up the phone, and you phone, and you say, listen, I need a water pump for a JAC, and I was going to say, excuse.
But just one thing, also remember that LDV is actually Leyland DAF vehicles. So that used to be an English company. It's similar to
MG.
MG.
that used to be an English company.
Yeah, but they were
Similar to
not to
Land
be-
Rover.
not-
I think
That
the
used
only-
to be
they were
an English
cucked. They were
company.
cucked then.
Yeah.
Land Rover is now an Indian company.
I don't
Remember
think
that?
there's anything that's been
They were
brought
cucked
with
then, man.
other than the name. But Anton, it's you've got to ask yourself what happens if you have an issue with the Hilux. Okay, and I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers here. I've owned both Hilux and Ford. You know I had a Ford.
You went with me on the first overlanding trip in your Ford Wildtrak.
Yes, and what a stunning vehicle. I loved that Wildtrak because it drove beautifully. It was luxurious. That gruff 5-cylinder motor. I really loved it.
Was the gearbox sorted out by the time you sold it?
Yes, the new torque converter, refurbished torque converter. But that car had a problem from
Day one.
day one. The shifts were not great. But my point is, that vehicle went to Ford outside of services 18 times for issues in two years. I can't deal with a vehicle like that. I just cannot. We had 5 Rangers in our delivery fleet of 60 vehicles at our parts company. We had to get rid of them by 80,000 Ks. We had 2.5 Hiluxes that have done 700,000 Ks. We replaced driver door hinges because they fall off. That's the difference. So just coming back to the point is that would you take any of the non-legacy brand vehicles? Would you kit them out and go to Puros, the other side, Palembang?
Not currently.
Not yet.
You can't do that. And why is
Not
that?
yet.
It's not necessarily because the product is poor. And I'm not saying the product is poor. However, a guy with 32 dealerships, of which only 6 are Chinese, has got 3 guys looking after Chinese vehicle warranties, only one after the other. That says something. You've got to bear that in mind. Will that improve? No doubt it will.
Absolutely.
The Chinese are improving daily. They're not lazy. They're not stupid. They're not just into copying for years and years now anymore. They're getting better and better and better. Hence my statement just now that it's sometime in the future, it may not happen while
No,
you and I are
it's
still
that-
alive, but it's sometime in the future.
No,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, it's at the moment the build quality on most of them. I recently had a Moda C9, and it is magnificently built inside. It's almost Range Rover-ish, not completely, but it's got that same feel. It just feels quality. And what most of the Chinese brands, it's little things that worry. It's gearbox calibration. It's just like you go from 0 to hero. It's little things, and it's just software issues. And once they've been here, or in, let's say, Australia as well, similar conditions, and they've figured out how to deal with our heat and our sand and our cold and our wet and our dry.
And our people.
They're
And
going to be doing it better than the other guys.
they're going to say, thanks guys, we're here, done and dusted. And legacy brands are going to have to.
They're going to disappear. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. They'll disappear. They don't have it in them to take the Chinese on and be better at it than the Chinese. BYD make phenomenal vehicles.
Yeah.
The Dolphin, the BYD pickup, the Shark
Yeah.
pickup. As far as Chinese vehicles are concerned, they're phenomenal. As far as electronic vehicles are concerned, they are arguably the best.
Yeah.
They're better than Tesla. Why is
Yeah.
that? So they're not a car manufacturer. They're
No.
a renewable energy company making cars. Tesla is kind of half and half, but everybody else is a car company trying to be or make
Make EVs.
EVs.
Yeah.
And out of that lot, Toyota are pretty good. Toyota, I think Toyota's hybrid technology is still,
No, that leads.
Ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
but the Chinese will, Chinese have got something now which I didn't know existed until, I have a very good friend who used to work at Nissan for a long time. He's now with Shangan. In fact, I think half of Nissan's technical people are at Shangan. And he was the range extended electronic vehicle.
Yeah.
What a fantastic, what a fantastic
Yeah.
idea.
Brilliant concept.
Brilliant concept. I said to them, I wouldn't mind taking one of those to Moremi and back, just to, can it be done? And I hope it doesn't break down, but you can go there and back on one tank.
Well, I mean,
maybe
we were on the launch of
give
the.
us one, and let's take it.
We did
We're
leap
not going to
motor.
Moremi. Let's start with the Thule and see if it can get there.
Look, I think it'll get there.
No, it'll get there. I've no doubt. I mean, we were on the Leap motor, which is also range extender vehicle, which is part of Stellantis. They have their own issues, but that concept of that little 1500 motor in front is basically a generator that's powering the batteries.
Just remember, that's how Audi got into the Dakar a couple of years back. That was pretty much a range extended vehicle.
Yeah.
But guys, we're going to keep on talking about the Chinese as long as, I mean, there's so much things that we can say. But I think they are here to stay. Probably 10 years' time, they're going to surpass what we ever expected. And maybe in a couple of years, like you guys say, the legacy guys are going to...
If I was, Stellantis, Audi,
Mercedes,
Volkswagen to a limited degree, I'd be very worried about the Chinese.
Very.
And even Ford.
I came across some weird figures. I call them weird because I was shocked. Last year, 2024, these are based on NUMSA figures. 400 and just shy of 485,000 vehicles, passenger vehicles, so cars and buggies. Okay, last year. Out of those, just over 300,000 imported. Okay. Out of the 300,000, just over 50,000 Chinese vehicles. Okay. But 174,000, more than half of the imported vehicles from India.
Yeah.
But not Indian brands.
No.
So
No.
Suzuki,
all
Toyota.
12 Suzuki models, all the
Suzuki.
all the Toyota branded Suzukis,
Yeah.
all the small little Renaults, even some Hyundais and Kias.
Yes.
But the actual Indian brands don't feature.
No,
You know,
Mahindra is there or thereabouts.
and the other one, SsangYong, well, they don't really feature. Anymore.
So Mahindra,
That was just, I found that very interesting. That picture's going to change massively.
So at the moment, if you look at our sales figures, the vast majority of them, I think somebody was saying, I read a piece, Westbank was saying something like almost 60 to 70% of our cars are either manufactured in India or China.
Yes, that's right. That's correct. It's 17% plus the 50-something percent.
Because we now buying, South Africans are buying in that sort of 250 to 450k mark, and that's where they play. That's where they play.
And the Toyota branded Suzukis, they're doing very well there. Yeah, it's a strange thing.
But guys, as I said, we have to nip it in the bud here. We will come back next time. Willem, once again, thanks for being on Recovery Point.
Lekker.
Mick, very nice having you for your first one.
Thanks
I
very much.
believe you're there for the next one as well. We're going to talk a little bit suspension because that is actually where most of your brain cells tend to go to now.
It does. It's a morbid fascination with something that one shouldn't really be fascinated in, but that's what it is.
But guys, thanks for joining us on Recovery Point. We'll see you next time. Please like, share, and subscribe, and cheers.